The last thing you remember is the clang of a steel hatch and the smell of diesel and silence. Total, consuming silence. You wake on a cold metal floor, and the first thing you notice is not the darkness. It is the stillness. The ship is not moving the way a ship should. There is no engine thrum beneath your ribs. There is no ventilation breath whistling through the ducts. There is only the slow, sickly roll of a hull at the mercy of the sea. You stand up. Your hands find a wall, then a rail, then a door that will not open at first because the power locks are dead. You force it. A corridor stretches ahead, lit by nothing. Call out, but he answers. You walk the full length of that corridor, past cabin doors tagged with names you do not know, past a stairwell that smells of rust and old coffee. You climb, reach the bridge. Windows are black with night, but beyond them you can feel open water in every direction. The radar is dead. The radios are dead. Lights are dead. Every screen, every gauge, every glowing button is dark. You are alone on a cargo ship the size of a city block, and you have no idea where you are, how you got here, or why everyone else is gone. The deck below your feet tilts. The ship groans. Somewhere far below, something heavy shifts and bangs against the hull. Grip the wheel. Turns freely and does nothing. The ocean breathes. The ship rolls. That is the moment it hits you. There will be no rescue coming tonight. There may be no rescue coming at all. Morning comes gray and flat. You finally see the scale of your prison. This is a container ship. Leviathan of steel. 400 meters long, 60 meters wide, with a tower of stacked containers rising above the main deck like a canyon wall of colored steel. Count them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Some are damaged, their doors bent open by whatever happened before you woke. Others are sealed tight, padlocked and silent. Bridgewing gives you a full circle view. Ocean! Nothing but ocean. Land on any horizon. No contrail in the sky. No ship wake cutting the water. You are alone in the middle of somewhere enormous. You go back inside. You start reading the ship like a textbook. Engine room is your first target. You find the ladder down and descend through decks that get darker and hotter the deeper you go. The main engine is a cathedral of metal, silent and enormous. You check the fuel. Tanks are not empty. There is diesel. The generators will not start. Trace the problem. Breaker is tripped. Pipe is cracked. Junction box is scorched and blackened. Something failed catastrophically. You are not an engineer. You do not know if this can be fixed. Do you know one thing for certain? Without power, this ship is a coffin floating on the water. You cannot run the bilge pumps. You cannot run the refrigeration. You cannot run the water maker. Every system that keeps a crew alive depends on electricity. You sit on the engine room deck and stare at the dead machinery. You have no idea how long you have been unconscious. You have no idea how long the ship has been drifting. You only know that the clock has started. You are already behind. Throat first. That is the rule. Human can last weeks without food, but only days without water. Water comes before everything. You search the ship top to bottom. The galley has a few bottles, maybe 20 liters. The crew cabins have personal bottles, half empty, left on nightstands. Collect every drop. Total, about 50 liters. At a ration of 1 liter a day, that is less than 2 months. But enough. Keep looking. The ship has fresh water tanks. Ones. But they are pressurized by pumps, and the pumps are electric. You find the tank access hatch and open it manually. Water inside is there. You lower a bucket on a rope and pull. Tastes flat and chemical. But it is water. You estimate maybe 2,000 liters. It buys you time. Safety. Time. Because the tanks will not refill themselves. There is no desalination or rain catchment. You start to think like a survivor. Raid the lifeboats. Each one has a survival kit. Water pouches. Flares. Fishing line. First aid kit. Take everything. You rig tarps across the deck to catch rainfall. Funnel the runoff into jerry cans. First night it rains, you stand on the deck in your underwear and open your mouth to the sky. You feel ridiculous. You feel grateful. You begin to log everything in a notebook you found on the bridge. Date unknown. Water inventory. Food inventory. Condition of systems. You write it down because if someone finds this ship, they will need to know what happened. Because if nobody finds it, the writing is the only proof you existed. The food question haunts you from day one. The galley pantry gives you your first wave of relief. Canned goods. Pasta. Fried beans. Enough to feed a crew of 20 for weeks. Weeks is not a year. You eat carefully. One can of beans split into 2 meals. You make the rice last. You portion everything. You start cracking open containers. This is where the ship becomes a lottery. First container you force open is full of car parts, bumpers, and exhaust manifolds. Useless. Second is electronics. Pallets of phones still in shrink wrap. Useless. Third makes your heart pound. It is full of canned fish. Commercial export. Thousands of cans. Sit in the doorway and laugh until your eyes water. Fourth container holds clothing. Fifth holds furniture. Sixth is a refrigerated unit, already warm and spoiled, full of rotting produce that makes you gag from 10 meters away. You seal it and move on. For the following weeks, you methodically open container after container. Most of it is junk to you. Machinery, industrial chemicals, auto parts. But you find small miracles. Container of bottled juice. Container of granola bars. Container of instant noodles. Somehow the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. Catalog everything. Build a mental map. Container 7, row B, tier 3. Noodles. You start to think of the ship as a city with neighborhoods. You live in the superstructure. Shop in the containers. Eat in the galley. Pray in the engine room. You cannot fix the main engine. You accept that, but you start small. There are emergency batteries on the bridge. Dead. You charge them with a wind-up flashlight and stubbornness. It is not enough. You raid the lifeboats again, which has a small solar panel for its beacon. You dismantle 3 of them and wire the panels together on the bridge wing. You get a faint light, enough to read by at night, enough to charge a salvaged radio. Turn it on and sweep frequencies for hours. Static. Voice in a language you do not understand, far away and fading. Nothing. Try every channel. Try at different times of day. Try with the antenna extended higher. Nothing. World is out there, but it cannot hear you. Turn to the generators. There's a backup diesel generator on the upper deck, smaller than the main engine. You find the manual. Read it cover to cover by solar light. You learn about fuel lines and compression and coolant. Try to start it. Coughs. Dies. You bleed the fuel line. You try again. Coughs, catches, and then nothing. Spend 2 weeks on that generator. You sleep next to it. Talk to it. Beg it. Morning you try again and it roars to life. Vibration runs through the whole ship. Lights flicker on in the corridor. A radio crackles. You almost cry. 10 minutes you have power. Then a hose bursts and it dies again. But you have proven something. The ship is not entirely dead. You can coax life out of it. You can fight. The ship does not stay still. It drifts. Currents push it. Wind drags it. You learn this from the bridge, watching the water slide past the hull. You have no propulsion, no steering. You are a cork. Very large, very heavy cork. Begin tracking your position crudely. You use the stars at night and a sextant you found in a drawer. Do not really know how to use it. You study the manual. You make mistakes. But after weeks, you get a rough fix. You are in the North Pacific, drifting east. Slowly, you mark your position on the chart every few days and draw a line. The line curves and wanders. The ocean is taking you somewhere, but it will not tell you where. There becomes your tyrant. You watch the sky. You learn to read clouds. Wall of gray on the horizon means trouble. You secure everything. Lash down the jerry cans. Close the container doors. You retreat to the interior. Storms hit like living things. Ship screams. Containers bang and shift. Water crashes over the bow and floods the deck. You lie on the floor of your cabin with your hands over your head and wait. The roll can reach 30 degrees. You slide across the floor. Things fall and break. You hold onto a pipe and pray. The storm passes. You emerge to survey the damage. The container has shifted and crushed the railing. The deck is littered with debris. The hull holds. You are still afloat. You patch what you can. Clean up. Wait for the next one. Because there will always be a next one. It comes on a night when the sea looks almost calm. You're on the bridge, watching the moonlight on the water. You see a shape. It is darker than the ocean around it. Wall. Amazing. You've read about rogue waves. Never expected to see one. It hits the port side like a detonation. The ship lurches. You are thrown across the bridge and hit the chart table with your shoulder. Something cracks.
never expected
Ship
to
heels
see
so
one.
far
Brace
you
for
are
impact.
certain it will not
You took a
recover.
heavy hit to the
Containers slide. Deal shrieks. Lights you had wired flicker and die. 10 seconds the ship is on its side, and the ocean is pouring over the deck like a waterfall. You cannot breathe. You cannot think. We're certain this is the end. And the ship rolls back. Slowly. Painfully. Comes upright with a groan that sounds almost human. We're on the floor. Your shoulder is dislocated. You can see the joint sitting wrong under your skin. You scream. Drag yourself to the medical locker. Find morphine. Find splints. Find a manual that tells you how to reduce a dislocation. You follow the steps alone, on the floor, with your good hand, biting down on a leather belt. Joint pops back in. Pass out. When you wake, the sea is calm again, as if nothing happened. The ship remembers. Container stack has partially collapsed. Crack runs along the deck. You survived. The ocean has shown you something. It does not need a reason. It does not need a storm. It can kill you on a calm night, and you will never see it coming. The first month is about survival. Second month is about the body. Third month is about the mind. That is when the silence gets into your bones. There is no human voice. There is no music. There is no conversation. There is only the creak of steel and the endless wash of water against the hull. You start talking to yourself, quietly at first, running commentary. I am going to the galley. I'm opening a can. I am eating. And louder. Then in different voices. You catch yourself arguing with someone who is not there. You stop. Stare at the wall. Start again. Find a paperback novel in a crew cabin. Read it aloud. Read every character in a different voice. You read the same book 4 times. You memorize passages. You recite them while you walk the deck. We're performing for an audience of 0. Time loses meaning. You try to mark days. You scratch a line on the wall every morning. Storms and injuries blur the count. You lose track. You are not sure if it has been 90 days or 120. You are not sure it matters. You start seeing things. Shadows at the edge of your vision. Figures on the bridge wing that vanish when you turn. You hear footsteps in the corridor. You hear your name called from the engine room. Go down to check. Thing weighs nothing. You know it is your mind playing tricks. Knowing does not make it stop. You sleep less. You eat less. You sit for hours staring at the horizon, waiting for something that doesn't come. Loneliest creature on the planet. You rescue yourself with routine, not because it is productive, because without structure, you will dissolve. You wake at the same time every day. Do not know what time it is, but you use the sun. Do calisthenics on the deck. Push-ups, squats, pull-ups on a pipe. You do this because if your body fails, you die. You eat breakfast, 1 can or 1 ration. You log it. You inspect the ship. Walk a circuit. Out astern. Check for damage. Check the water level in the bilge. Check the container doors. Pump the bilge by hand when it gets too high. It is backbreaking. You do it anyway. You work on the generator. You work on the radio. Try something new every day. Different antenna. Different frequency. Different wiring setup. Thing works. Log it anyway. In the afternoon you fish. Use the line from the lifeboat kit. Catch small fish. You eat them raw because you cannot risk a fire on the deck, and the galley stove is electric. Flesh is cold and metallic. You eat it. Supplement with canned food. The evening you read. Write in your journal. Record the weather. Record your position. Record your mood. You write down everything you remember about your life before the ship, your family, your home, faces of people you love. You write their names. You write them again and again, because you are terrified that one day you will wake up and not remember them. Routine becomes a religion. Do not skip it. Do not question it. It is the wall between you and the abyss, and every day you complete it is a day you won. The ocean changes. You do not notice at first. The light shifts. The air gets colder. Sun sits lower. You have crossed into autumn. Maybe the southern winter. You are not sure. But your body knows. The wind bites harder. Rain is colder. Nights are longer. You retreat into the interior. You seal the bridge windows. Block the corridors with salvaged furniture and tarps to trap heat. You wear layers of clothing from the containers. A coat meant for a European winter. Boots 3 sizes too big. A hat that smells like someone else. You look absurd. Do not care. Cold is a new enemy. Cannot run the heating. Cannot run anything for long. Backup generator still only works in bursts. You rig it to charge batteries and run a small heater for 1 hour a night. 1 hour of warmth. You sit in front of it like it is a fireplace, and you are a caveman. The fishing gets worse. The fish have gone deeper or migrated. You rely more on the canned stores. You recalculate. Current rate, the food lasts maybe 4 more months. If nobody comes, you will starve before the year is out. You start thinking about alternatives. You've seen them on the ship. They came aboard in the containers. You set traps. You catch one. You look at it in the cage and feel sick. Kill it. Cook it over a small fire you build in a steel bucket on the deck. Risk be damned. Tastes like nothing. We eat it all. Survival has no dignity. We accept this. Move on. There is a day when you stop. Do not get up. You lie in your bunk and stare at the ceiling, and the routine means nothing. Journal is open on the floor. Pen is out of reach. You do not reach for it. You have been alone for what you estimate is 7 or 8 months. Radio has never answered. Generator works less and less. Food is running low. The cold is in your marrow. You have a cut on your hand that is not healing. You think it might be infected? Do not care. Lie there for a day, and 2, and 3. Drink water because the bucket is next to you. You do not eat. The ship rolls and you do not move. The sky outside the porthole is gray. It is always gray. You think about the people who might be looking for you. Might not be. You think about whether anyone remembers you. You think about whether you remember yourself. You try to say your own name. It comes out hoarse. Say it again. Louder. You say the names of the people you love. You say them like a prayer. Say the name of your street, city, mother. You force yourself to sit up. It takes everything. Stand. Legs shake. Walk to the porthole. Look out. Ocean is still there. Endless and indifferent. You are still here. You tell yourself that. You say it aloud. Still here. You walk to the door. You open it. Go to the galley. Open a can. You eat. You have hit the bottom, and you have decided it is not today. It is almost an accident. You are on the bridge, tinkering with the radio for the 1000th time. You have a new idea. You wire the antenna to the ship's main mast, using the entire steel structure as an amplifier. Do not expect it to work. The thing has worked for months. You turn the dial, transmit on the emergency frequency. You send the distress call. You say your name. You say you are on a drifting cargo vessel. You give your rough position. Repeat it. Do this for an hour. Hear nothing. Turn off the radio to save the battery. You sit in silence, and you hear it.
Command, this
Crackle.
is the bridge.
Pop. Voice.
The ice is
Faint.
closing in.
Broken. Real.
Transmitting on
Human
the secondary
voice.
frequency.
Cannot make out the words.
3415 north.
Grab the
Papa
microphone.
November, Charlie.
Transmit again. Beg them to repeat. Voice comes back. Clearer this time. It is a Coast Guard vessel. Or a fishing boat. Do not care.
This is the
It is a
Marius.
person.
Is Fox
Can hear
anyone
you.
there?
You are
We hear
crying.
East Farouk.
Shaking.
Static.
Cannot form sentences. Say your name.
The
Say you
reactor
are
core.
alive.
Mayday, mayday.
Say, please. Voice asks for your position. You give it. You say they are coming. You say it will take days. You say you understand. You say you will be here.
Can you
Turn
hear
off
me?
the radio to save power. You sit on the bridge floor. You laugh. You cry. You pound the floor with your fist. You are not invisible anymore. The world knows you are out here. Someone is coming. The first time in months, you are not alone. The ocean has not won.
The sea
You
serpent.
have held on long enough. The days between the signal and the ship are the hardest and the easiest at the same time. Hard because you are weak. Your body is failing. The infection on your hand has spread to your wrist. You have a fever that comes and goes. You eat the last of the canned fish. You ration the water. You are barely standing. Easy because you have hope. Hope is a drug. It fills you. You spend hours on the bridge wing scanning the horizon. Every dark speck is a ship. Every cloud shadow is a vessel. You raise the binoculars 100 times a day. You lower them 100 times. Thing, you maintain the routine. Because you need to survive forever. Just a little longer. You just need to last a few more days. Talk to the radio. Transmit your position twice a day. The voice on the other end checks in. It is a different voice now. Woman, calm and steady. She asks your name. She asks how you are. You tell her. She tells you they are coming. She tells you to hold on. You tell her you will. You mean it. The third day, you see a shape on the horizon, low and dark. Moving. You raise the binoculars. It's a ship. Real ship. Coast Guard cutter, gray and purposeful. You wave your arms. You scream. Ship turns toward you. Horn sounds. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. Boat launches from the cutter. Men in orange vests. They reach the hull. They call up to you. You throw down a line. You climb. First one to reach the deck is Young. Looks at you and his face changes. He's never seen someone who has been alone for a year on a dead ship. You look at him and you don't know what to say. You say thank you. Puts a blanket around your shoulders. You sit on the deck. Rescue is real. Is happening. You have made it. They medevac you off the ship. You are dehydrated, malnourished, infected. You weigh what you weighed as a teenager. Hair is long and tangled. Your skin is weathered and cracked.
Thank you.
You look like someone who has been to war. In a way, you have. They take you to a hospital on land. You do not remember much of the first days. IV fluids, antibiotics, warmth, bed that does not move, ceiling that is not steel. You sleep for what they tell you is 2 days. When you wake, there are people, real people. Nurse, doctor, someone from the Coast Guard asking questions, someone from the shipping company, journalist in the hallway. You cannot process all of it. Look at their faces and you feel overwhelmed. So many voices, so many eyes. You had forgotten what a crowd felt like. You recover slowly. Body heals faster than the mind. You start therapy. Talk about the ship. Talk about the silence. Talk about the wave. Talk about the day you could not get up. Talk about the voice on the radio. Therapist listens. He tells you that what you survived is extraordinary. You do not feel extraordinary. You feel like someone who refused to die. There is a difference. Years later, you still cannot sleep without the sound of water. You play ocean recordings at night. You still talk to yourself sometimes. You still recite the names of the people you love, just to make sure you remember. You still keep a journal. You still eat slowly, still rationing in your head. The ship is gone, salvaged and scrapped. But you carry it with you. Every day, in every small act of survival, you carry it. You were alone on a dead ship for a year. You were the loneliest person on the planet. You are still here.